Jeanette Cremor, or simply JC, is curious and learns every day. Her girls, her daughter and her beautiful granddaughter, are her why and inspiration. JC has 25 plus years experience in government, higher education, and utility sectors, linking people, process, and technology. In 2017, she created the Project Ecosystem, a planning and delivery framework for business transformations. And in 2024, she wrote her first book, Real Project Leadership, the proven recipe for project teams to have real impact. JC helps senior officers and project teams to keep their projects on track with workshop facilitation, group coaching, and training programs. And I'm very blessed to call JC a friend. She is one of the most intelligent, kind, and insightful people that I know. So, welcome, JC.
Thanks, Julian. That's so kind. And we also have a bit of banter about our favourite football teams from now and again
We do.
to keep our relationship healthy.
So I'm really so excited to get into this chat with you today because you are the queen of project management and leadership. And when we think about it, we are all running some sort of a project, but you are like the queen of big projects and really keeping them on track, on time, on budget, on purpose. So I'm really keen to get into this chat today.
Thanks,
So let
Julie.
me ask you, JC, your book, Real Project Leadership, introduces a unique framework with 3 pillars and 15 ingredients for effective project leadership. What inspired you to write the book, and why do you believe it sets your approach apart from traditional project management methods?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a 5-year journey. I wanted to put what I know into words somewhere, but anyway, I finally got there with a book, with the help of a
Mm-hmm.
business mentor. And real project leadership for me is about behaviours and actions, not titles, and everyone has a role to play. Through my experience, most of my professional career has been project recovery work. So I've been called in when things have been off track. Jeanette,
Yeah.
bring it back. We need to deliver this. We've either over budget, we've got disengaged stakeholders, we've got customer complaints, staff are leaving, call it whatever, all the symptoms. And I had to recover. And I thought, but why is it that I can recover projects and yet I'm still reading articles around symptoms of lack of governance, no requirements, customers don't know what they're going to get. And it really intrigued me to say, well, hang on, how come I could do it with my teams and yet I'm still reading these articles? So I went and did a lot of research and I unpacked all of my case studies and I came up with all of these ingredients or topics. And I had about 23 and I thought, okay, let's structure it in a way that's easy to absorb and apply because for me it has to be practical. And so I came up with who I am, self-leadership, what I do, and how I do it. So self, practice, and solution leadership are the 3 pillars. And then I looked at the ingredients and I matched them to each of the pillars. So I ended up with 5 per pillar. Why I think this is different is it's a team collective behaviour and action, not an individual. So the team's only as good as everyone. So that's why I call it real project leadership, and it's a recipe for teams. But the idea is that you, as part of a team, have all these ingredients that you can actually do your own self assessment. What role am I playing in the team today, and what do they need me to be tomorrow? So that's kind of why I wrote it. It was to bring all my lessons and help others.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that your first pillar is about self because everything starts with you in terms of how you interact with the team, how you work on the project. It just all comes back to you. So I really love that. And what I notice about your work, especially about you, is you've just got this distinct ability, like this innate ability to make the complicated so simple. You've just got this ability to distill it down into the simple, which is what you've done in the book.
Yeah, thanks. I tried, and the reason why I wrote it this way, it's kind of like a book that I want people to be able to just highlight, read one ingredient and apply it. They don't have to read the whole book. They can
Yeah.
identify what's lacking and go, okay, let's practice that ingredient for the next couple of weeks. Let's
Yeah.
let's hone in. So you don't have to read the whole book. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I've wrote it that way because it's practical and I think, well, if I my teams that were able to recover the projects, we demonstrated this over and over and over again. And I know it wasn't me; it was the collective team. I hope others get to see that as well.
Yes, absolutely. Now you mentioned, at the starting point that you recover projects that are off track. And I speak to so many people who are really struggling with their projects for, many, many reasons. What are the most common challenges that you see leaders face, and how can they use your framework to course correct?
We're probably going to talk the typical things that everyone's probably experiencing. I know I even experienced some of this myself. When I look at projects that are off track, there's some common themes that the senior, responsible officers or the senior managers are trying to tackle. They're things like silos and conflicts. So teams, for some unknown reason, have this virtual brick wall that they think that they can't cross over and collaborate. They think they need to know the
Mm,
answers themselves. So I'm still seeing um, senior officers in organisations still struggling to get project teams to not be silos and actually collaborate. That it's okay that they can, involve other people. Balancing long and short term priorities. They have to keep the momentum of the project, but they've got these longer term priorities that are now pulling budgets and going, okay, if I keep, I'm going to run out of money. Oh my gosh, we haven't yet delivered. How can I realise that benefit? I can't pull the funding from that. I need to. They're constantly struggling with what I call portfolio priorities. The everything that has to get done, and they're being asked to do more with less. So they're really
yeah.
struggling with that. Change adoption. Every day is about some piece of change that we have to adopt. It could be simple or it could be complex, but it's no longer constant in status quo. We can't sit there for 3 months and go, let's breathe and let's really embed this before the next wave of change comes. It's a
Mm,
constant cycle. So what I'm seeing them struggling with is things, you might have heard these terms like change fatigue or what's the change appetite. And that really correlates directly with risk profile of the organisation as well, as what I'm seeing is about change adoption of how rapid the waves are coming in, or are they this constant easy beat rather than this like the waves. So that's another one, and probably another one is performance and productivity. Work different ways of working, virtual teams, national, international. I mean, more and more of business transformation journeys involve global teams now. We do a lot of offshore development with our technology. And so, how do we get our technology part of the project aligned with our business where all the processes may be onshore? So, there's a lot
mm,
of performance and productivity things that they're struggling with. How they can use
mm. I
that,
change.
yeah, I was going to say, how can they use that? Is there's always people, process, and technology warning signs. And when you peel back the layers, it's all to do with behaviour. So each of these 15 ingredients, if a senior officer sees that these behaviours aren't evident, they're not obvious, just check. Maybe your project's in trouble because they're the warning signs you need to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And change is such a massive thing. When I've been part of projects in corporate, and mind you, back then change wasn't so rapid.
Mm.
But even what I'm hearing now is people get really frustrated with having to change course because of whatever's happened. It's like, I just want to stay, focused. I just want to do my work. I don't want to have to constantly think and adapt.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, how do you get people over that hurdle?
Stay in your lane, but then that's contradictory to collaboration. So
Mm,
if you are someone that likes to stay in your lane, head down, do your tasks every day, and that I've contributed, I've added value to my role in my organisation. You're probably more operational mindset. You like a little bit of routine. You like structure. You're probably not a project person. Project
mm,
team members need to be flexible, agile, as in adapt to change, because project teams are temporary. We're not there forever. So if you're someone that really likes some structure and to stay in your lane, probably project teams are not the environment for you.
mm,
Probably would be my recommendation, because project teams are temporary, which means you come in, you have to give your best for that temporary assignment, and then you might go back to an operational role. Um,
mm,
and those people actually are in projects. And I'll give you an example. There's what we call subject matter experts. So
mm-hmm,
project teams need those operational people to come in, inject their expertise, and then they can go back to their operational role. But sometimes
mm,
I see that they get the taste of a project and they go, "Oh, I want more of this." So operational teams actually cultivate our next generation project team. They actually are
yeah,
really the root. So if an organisation can invest in their operational teams to start thinking a little bit more about project ways of working, how can I have time boxed goals? How can I have collaboration and structure? You're starting to cultivate your next real project team member that's going to be your golden child or your next leader.
mm. I love that. Now, you emphasized before about the importance of behaviors over titles or authority, which I really love. So, how does this, I suppose, emotional intelligence play into effective project leadership? Is the first question. And then, how can leaders develop this skill?
Yeah, good questions. Let's start with, well, self leadership is probably the basis of the emotional intelligence in the pillar. So
Yeah.
let's break down. In self leadership pillar, I talk about the five ingredients of self awareness, values and principles, growth mindset, resilience, and self discipline.
Mm,
They're the five key ingredients that I have seen over and over again that get us to step up to be that leader in the team that they need you to be now, because you're so self-aware of who you are, what you represent, your values. We all, as project team members, we all bring our baggage of full of our tools and our experiences, but we also bring our values with us. And
mm,
sometimes the value that I bring in my toolkit for this project needs to be put at the door because it's not good for the team. It might be good for you as an individual, but as a team, that value doesn't sit. So that's why I always talk about self leadership as a team. We need to check all those five ingredients as a collective, including
mm.
self discipline. So, for example, self discipline is do what you say you're going to do, follow through,
Yeah.
be consistent.
Yeah.
So when you're in a team environment, if you're saying you're going to have something delivered by 3 o'clock tomorrow and that person's relying on you, don't wait till 5 to 3 and say, "Oh, sorry, I can't get it to you till 2 days' time." That's not that's lowering the level of trust in the team dramatically. They're going
Yeah.
from, "Hang on a minute, can I trust you to follow through on this? I'm relying on you to get this delivered to me. So self-discipline fits into that self-leadership pillar for that reason.
Mm.
So I think that to me is emotional intelligence is all about self. And the way that I ask people to probably practice learning that is what I call pause and pay attention to our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors without judgment. And I call them mirror moments.
Yeah.
So you can be sitting in a project team environment, could be a meeting, could be online, could be virtual, and someone says something and it triggers something in you.
Mm.
That's a mirror moment. So you go, okay, let's pause and sit with that. What was I feeling? What am I thinking? And what's going to be my behavior in response to this? I'm just going to sit and listen and absorb it and go, let's sit on that, which is my recommendation. Because as soon as you react to that mirror moment, you're actually not really self-aware. You actually haven't elevated your self-leadership to a level of impact that all the team's going to benefit. So yeah, so that to
Mm.
me is how you can apply self-leadership and start practicing what I call mirror moments. Pause, pay attention to your thought, feeling, and behavior without judgment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I really love that. And are those values what you recommend every project team adopts as collective values to
absolutely.
make the project run really well? Yeah.
Absolutely. It's part of the onboarding, or when you establish a project team,
Yeah.
is to create those. And I've got a 10-step for how to create values for a team to help people guide through those 10 steps. But even when someone joins your project team temporarily, they might be there for 2 weeks, 2 months. Part of the onboarding is to onboard them into these are our team values on how we work together, and these are the
Mm.
principles of operating our day to day, how we communicate, how do we call one another's behaviours out, how do we support each other if someone else is struggling. There's a heap of things that they can do, but absolutely every team has a different set of team values. I've never seen, maybe I'm yet to see, where a team will have the same values as another. I haven't seen it yet. Not exactly.
Yeah.
They might have the same word, but when you describe what that word means in evidence of behaviour, it's different for every team.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. And I like that. It's so important because, as values should be for you as an individual, they're your guiding light, they're your compass. The same thing for the project team, because that's part of having that dynamic, that it's trust, it's sort of enabling people to be their best within that framework.
Yeah, and I find typically, if the audience listening are senior officers in an organisation sponsoring a project, they have a role in defining those values as well. It's not the project team; they are part of the project team. Too many times I see project teams not involving the sponsor in those sorts of things, and they have to be involved because at the end of the day, we're delivering an outcome for that senior officer in the organisation to get benefit back
Mm.
to the organisation. So they have to be included in defining the values and the principles, how the team's going to operate, how the team's going to report to them, how they're going to escalate, how do we keep their key stakeholders informed. So please don't think a project team is the core team. It actually
Mm.
is everyone that actually is impacted by the project can be looked at as a team member, and I absolutely encourage that your project sponsor is part of your project team.
Okay. Good tip. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, for those who are new to project leadership or who want to upskill, what's one practice or mindset shift from your book that they can start implementing right away to make a difference?
Probably might suggest one of the secret sauces. So I had three
Mhm.
pillars, 15 ingredients, and
I
two
love
secret
sauce.
sauces. The secret sauces are in the back of the book, and I talk about two things: role model and legacy. I'm going to probably ask people to think about the legacy because I know you're an expert in the role model bit. I learnt a lot from you about role models. Um, so for legacy, for me, what's one thing that they can pick up now and make differently? If the project finished today, what legacy have you left the organisation for tomorrow? That can be in the role model that you were or were not. It could be how
Yeah,
the project team performed or did not, or
yeah,
it could be about the benefits that you delivered or did not. So think of the end in mind. Think of why does this project exist and what's the legacy it's going to leave behind for tomorrow. That to me is probably where a lot of the why the projects go off track is they haven't got that end game in mind. They're not really targeting what the legacy of that is, what the project is.
yeah. And you're talking about the legacy as an individual, yeah?
And as a team,
Um,
yes, both.
and as the team. Okay, I
Because
love
you're a
that.
part of the
I,
team. You can only be as good as the team.
yes, yes, I love that because a lot of people think of legacy as something that you leave on your, think about on your deathbed. But you leave a legacy as part of everything that you do, and it's a culmination of everything that you do each day that creates your legacy. So really thinking about that and the legacy piece that you leave, as an individual within that project, if, as you say, if you're like a really strong role model for the future, whatever that looks like, or people within the project, but also at the project itself, what's the legacy of
Yeah,
that?
yes.
Mm,
Why did we invest in it in the first place? You know,
wow.
we
I know
we,
that's a
we
big question.
yeah, we forget about that. So that's kind of why I call that the secret sauce. Is if you don't know the legacy of your project and why it was invested in the first place, maybe the question is it's already off track, and we should have another conversation another time, Julie, about
Yeah.
investing in the right projects. But yeah, that to me is it's one thing if we can all start just sitting in that for a moment, going, oh, even in us as practice owners, we have projects
Mm,
in our own practice. They're not big
mm,
complex projects, like we're not doing massive technology upgrades or different ways of working or enabling our customer, increasing our customer satisfactions and that. We're doing it small, but we're still doing it.
mm,
So why are we doing this change in our practice? It's because we're trying to
mm.
leave a legacy for us to step up to the next bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. And as I said at the start, we're all involved in a project of some description. So I think what you've shared today, we can really, translate into that, into whatever we're doing. So, JC, that's such a powerful note to finish on. And thank you for being part of Leading You today. And I'll be sharing on the show notes how people can get a copy of your book and get in contact with you, especially if they're struggling with their project to get it back online. And that is a big project that we're talking about. So thank you so much for being part of Leading You.
Thanks, Jules. Thanks for being here.